We welcome you tonight to the regularly scheduled board meeting of Norman Public Schools Board of Education. Thank you so much for being here. We call the meeting to order and call the roll, please, Ms. Sesser.
Dirk O'Hara.
Here.
Alex Rogiers.
Here.
Annette Price.
Here.
Dawn Brockman.
Here.
We are excited tonight to have from Truman Primary, Elliot Eschbach, Avani Rai, Miles Eschbach, and Jody Crane. They're going to come down, and Dr. Nick and myself are going to join them as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you all would rise and join the students as they lead us.
And wait just a second. Wait. Mr. O'Hara will get right here.
Will you please join me to do the Pledge of Allegiance? Stand salute pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fantastic.
Thank you again, Truman Primary. We appreciate you being here. Now we are excited to welcome our newest board member to the Norman Public Schools Board of Education. So if Tori Collier will come on down, and Ms. Sasser, if you could go swear her in. There's probably going to be several of us up here videoing and taking pictures, so don't give us a hard time, but it's just a different perspective. And if you guys could video and take pictures the same, because that way she can capture it. So you guys welcome Tori Collier for the oath of office.
Hello. If you'll please raise your right hand and read the statement.
Okay. I, Tori Collier, hereby declare under oath that I will faithfully perform the duties of a Board of Education member of Norman Public Schools to the best of my ability, and that I will faithfully discharge all of the duties pertaining to said office and obey the Constitution and laws of the United States and Oklahoma.
If the Board of Education will join us down front, we're going to take a board picture of the new board. And if there's any family or friends that want to come also take pictures, now would be a good time to do it after we get this picture.
Do we need to move this?
It's just over a little bit, that'd be great.
Don't dump it, is that what you're saying? Okay, someone else move it back.
Y'all look right up here. Good. I'll get away if anybody else needs to take any photos.
She's got the angles. Go in, your family, go.
We already got the look. We are family.
That wasn't too hard, was it?
Good? Awesome.
Next is 3B, election of board officers. Do we have a nomination for the board vice president?
I have a nomination. I move to elect Alex Rigiers as Vice President of the Board of Education.
I second.
Any discussion? Ms. Sasser?
Dirk O'Hara,
Yes.
Alex Rigiers,
Yes.
Annette Price,
Yes.
Dawn Brockman,
Yes.
Tori Collier.
Yes.
Your first vote. You got it out of the way. So good job. Next is 3B 2, which is election of the board president. Do we have a nomination?
I motion to elect Mr. Dirk O'Hara as President of the Board of Education.
I second.
Any discussion? Ms. Sasser?
Dirk O'Hara,
Yes.
Alex Rigiers,
Yes.
Annette Price,
Yes.
Dawn Brockman,
Yes.
Tori Collier.
Yes.
Next, we have many motions for all of the rest of the board clerk and offices. Mr. Rigiers?
Yes.
You can do the whole group. Yes, sir.
I make a motion to elect the following individuals to serve as board officers for the term of 1 year. Kathy Sasser as Clerk of the Board and Minutes Clerk, Natalie Eckert as the Deputy Board Clerk and Minutes Clerk, Jill Edson as the Second Deputy Board Clerk and Minutes Clerk, Cameron Cox as the Encumbrance Clerk, Shannon Benda as the Deputy Encumbrance Clerk, Tyler Jones, CPA, as the Treasurer, and Carrie Mahler, CPA, as the Deputy Treasurer.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Sasser?
Dirk O'Hara,
Yes.
Alex Rigiers,
Yes.
Annette Price,
Yes.
Dawn Brockman,
Yes.
Tori Collier.
Yes.
Next is item 4, awards presentation, years of service. This is one of our most exciting times where we get to reward our educators who have stayed with us for many, many, many years. It's always astounding to how long people have served with us. So thank you in advance. And Ms. Nevels, take it away.
Thank you, President O'Hara, Dr. Migliorino, and members of the board. This is an exciting night. It's an extension of more celebrations. We started celebrating Friday evening at our Celebration of Excellence. We've celebrated a new board member, and now we're celebrating the loyalty and longevity of so many of our valued employees. So I'm going to start with our 15 years of service, and obviously I would invite Mr. O'Hara down to help with the presentation of the pins, the very beloved pins that I know so many people are excited to receive. And stay up here after I say your name so that we can get a class picture of each group. So starting with our 15 years of service in Norman Public Schools, T.D. O'Hara, Elizabeth McPherson from Kennedy Elementary, Jennifer Ferguson from Madison Elementary, Ann Hockman from Madison Elementary, Kelly Newby from Roosevelt Elementary, Janet Gorton from the Administrative Services Center, Justin Milner from the Administrative Services Center, Jamie Rensel, Administrative Services Center, Stephanie Williams, Administrative Services Center, Shannon Johnson, Lakeview. Okay. She's 20. Oh, I apologize. I rolled over to the 20th page. So she can stand right here. She's going to be my first. She's my point of light. Jamie Rensel, point of light.
Actually, Justin stayed seated.
And mine's actually 20. I just didn't want to
right
point
here,
it
right
out.
here, right here. These are our leaders. These are our leaders from the Administrative Services Center, and I thank them. I thank them for that. Janet said she skipped 15, so I did it just to punish her, right? All right, 15-year class. We would love to get a photo of you.
Hang on. Come on down. You guys can't get pictures back there. Come on down. Thank you all. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you all so much. Okay. Now, the moment you've been waiting for. Our 20-year employees: Janet Gordon, Administrative Services Center; Jamie Rensel, Administrative Services Center; Justin Milner, Administrative Services Center; Stephanie Williams, Administrative Services Center; Shannon Johnson, Lakeview Elementary; Tammy Carter, Madison Elementary; Sachi Hawker, McKinley Elementary; Jennifer Berge, Norman High School; Jennifer Byington, Roosevelt Elementary; Sarah Maddock, Washington Elementary; and Christy Wheeler, Truman Primary. These are your 20-year Norman Public Schools veterans. And if anyone has come in since I received my list and you're a 20-year person, please join us.
Squeeze in just a little
Okay,
bit.
squeeze in for the photo.
You guys don't be shy.
Snuggle.
Right.
There's probably more. There's a line.
20 years, there should be a line.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you again to our 20-year employees. With 25 years of service to Norman Public Schools, we will begin with Carla Atkinson, Administrative Services Center; Tim Barnhill, Central Services; Amber Bowie, Kennedy Elementary School; Linda Moles, Longfellow Middle School; Janet Trotter, Madison Elementary; Jay Curry, Norman North High School; Becky Leach, Special Services; Paula Walker, Transportation; and Edith Garvin, Truman Primary.
A few more gray hairs and then
As it should be. 25 years. Does it seem like 25 years?
No.
Everybody look right up here. Good.
What do we look at?
Sure.
Where's Dawn?
More. Two more.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. With 30 years of service to Norman Public Schools, we start with Lisa Bischoff, Alcott Middle School; Catherine Chang, Jefferson Elementary; Becky Lennington, Jefferson Elementary; and Mario Becker, Wilson Elementary. Mary Jo Becker, Wilson Elementary.
Thanks. Come on, ladies. Hang on. We got more.
Get everybody.
Thank you so much to our 30-year employees. We have several who have served our school district for 35 years. I know that 2 of them were able to be with us this evening. I'll start with Brenda Wilkins from Norman High School and Brenda Wagner from Norman North High School. Hockey has snuck in. Rita from Norman North.
Thank you so much. Rita? Oh, really?
I should have known that Brenda and Rita would come
Thank you.
together.
We don't know how to do anything.
35 years, wow.
35 years.
Perfect, Charlie, look right up here.
You have any words you want to say?
Thank you, Deb.
Okay, I do have, yes, thank you. I do have one more category that I want to recognize as we were doing our bookkeeping, and you will not see their names on your screen, but we were not going to allow another year to roll by without giving them their recognition that is very much due. These 3 individuals have served the Norman Public Schools for 40 years, and so I would like to recognize Roxanne Patterson from Longfellow Middle School. Gail Richardson from Longfellow Middle School. And Principal of Truman Primary, Christy Eslin.
Sarah, we've got our diamonds and we've got our diamonds.
Girls.
Got one more.
Tiffany.
Could have walked closer, we'd have been ready for it.
Didn't see it.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are, first of all, thank you for allowing us to recognize and celebrate these individuals. We are so proud of them, but we're so grateful for their service. In a time when you know that it might be more challenging to find people going into the profession and the field of education, I stand any of our educators up as a model of why you should do what we do, but certainly those that we've recognized this evening are proof that this is an amazing profession filled with dedicated individuals who bring not only their strength and their talent and their love to our students and staff every day, but their loyalty and their longevity as well. And that is certainly something to be celebrated. So thank you for letting us do that this evening. And thanks to all of you.
So congratulations to everyone. Once again, Holly is so good with words, so ditto to everything she just said. Just so appreciative of the opportunity to get to work alongside each and every one of you. I think a couple of you may have been my teacher. I'm joking. But so excited, and we're getting ready to get into our business agenda. You're more than welcome to hang out, or you're more than welcome to find something else to do if you like.
After 15, 20, 25, 30, and 35, 40 years, they know better what to do right now. Ms. Sasser, is there any public communication?
There's no public communication.
Seeing no public communication, is there a motion on our consent agenda items?
I make a motion to approve the consent docket, items A through K, as listed on the agenda.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Ms. Sasser?
Dirk O'Hara.
Yes.
Alex Regiers.
Yes.
Annette Price.
Yes.
Dawn Brockman.
Yes.
Tori Collier.
Yes.
Yep, next is agenda item number 7A, which is presentation on the Whittier Middle School Solar Project by Justin Milner. And is Tony here? Okay, Justin Milner.
20 years, I haven't had a speaker not show up. So it was perfect. You might want to take back my pen, I guess. So I'm going to ask that we table that. I think I would rather Tony be here to deliver the information in detail than I tried to wing it. So my apologies, and hopefully he's all right. So I'll be making a quick call here in a few minutes to make sure he's not been in an accident or something.
Yep.
So anyway.
Thank you. 7A is tabled. Yes, sir.
So table meaning we can bring it back if he does show up. Okay.
Do we need to make a motion on that?
No, not to table. Not to table. Oh. We don't need a motion. That's great.
Okay.
So item 7B is a land exchange with the city of Norman for property at Adams Elementary and Woods Lawn Park. Justin Milner.
Fortunately, this speaker showed up. So, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Millerino, this item is for action this evening. And so we've been working with the city for quite some time. As you may recall from last month, we were able to exchange with the rec centers or purchase the rec centers for $10 for both rec centers located at Irving and Whittier. And so this month, we'll be walking you through some changes here. We're going to talk about the property as it relates to owned by NPS, and then the city property that would come back to us. And so in this first slide here, you'll see this is Eisenhower Elementary. And to that tennis court side is where you generally enter the front doors. So on your right side, you see there in the green, the park. The city owned half of the park, which is High Meadows, and then NPS in the red box is what we own. And so on to your left, you see there is the two red boxes with a grid across those. So we would like to exchange the property there to your right, allowing the city to have full access to the park, which puts them in a position to be eligible for grants or any kind of updates to the park with owning all of that outright. To the left, that would allow us for any kind of parking lot extensions. I will say with Mr. O'Hara's nudge, I was able to go back to the city. So you see that portion that's overlaying the tennis courts. That's actually an additional amount that we were able to work with the city on since our last conversation, which is about 0.588 acres. As you can see there, the tennis courts reside there currently. The master plan for the rec center, I think, is long-term. If there were to be another Norman Forward project, would be to redo that. And in that process, they look to master plan that out to probably move the tennis courts more centrally located and closer to the rec center. So with the removal of those tennis courts, that would allow us to have all that property that's adjacent to our property. So again, for any additional parking or just easement for that matter. So turning now to Adams Elementary. And so you can see the proximity. That's the playground there in the red box. Unfortunately, for many, many, many years, we have not had our playground on our property. And so this is something that we've been aware of, but through this agreement would allow us to secure that area from the city and allow us to actually have our playground on the property line, within property lines. So to give you an addition there as to 2.5 acres to the city of Norman and 1.422 acres for Norman Public Schools. And so again, not equal in the amount, but again, I think a fair land trade. This would be at no cost and certainly gives us and the city what we're looking for, I think, to serve both needs. So appreciate the city. They, again, have been great partners through this process, and feel like this is some good cleanup that will serve the district for the future. Happy to answer any questions.
I make a motion to approve the land exchange with the city of Norman as presented.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Ms. Price?
I have a question. So the tennis courts near the Eisenhower property, so we would take part of those tennis courts, and would those remain tennis courts, or would we have plans to remove them? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. So yes, a portion of that overlays the tennis courts. That would be something that we would leave in place for now. That gives us the future opportunity to secure that land if, in fact, the city goes forward with their master planning of the rec center there, which would allow them to move their tennis courts closer to the a new rec center, and would be demoing that tennis courts, I'm sure, at that location. So that parcel of land would then be in the ownership of Norman Public Schools.
And so the other part of that parcel, do we have plans for it? Any immediate plans?
No, all of this, neither have a current need other than, or a current plan, other than just securing, any kind of adjacent property that we can around schools. As we've talked about, those future opportunities are limited in some of our schools with just really being tight campuses. And so, again, when there's opportunity for us to meet each other's needs as far as the city and the Norman Public Schools, we want to take advantage of this. And so this is why we're bringing that proposal today.
And on the land on the other side of the school, the High Meadows property, if the city takes the rest of that property, will the kids at Eisenhower still be able to use it as a park?
Yeah, good question. Yes. So again, puts the city in a good situation for any further development as a park, and would not limit our students from accessing the park. In fact, if not next month, certainly by June, we anticipate bringing a MOU to the board between the city of Norman and Norman Public Schools that would capture that in writing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Were we able to get past the MOU to where it could be an easement, a use easement for High Meadows Park?
Yeah, so I brought that to the city, and so they're working through their city attorney as to if that's something that they're able to do. So
Perfect. That would make it
yeah,
good.
The
and permanent.
MOU will probably come forward anyway because it'll capture some other things, but whether the easements are doable or not, that would tag along with it.
Once again, we appreciate our partners at the city working with us, with the exchange of the rec centers, with the exchange of the land. Sometimes it doesn't look equal, but in a lot of ways, this helps us in many, many ways as well as it also helps them. So it's a good win-win. Any other questions or discussion? Ms. Sasser?
Dirk O'Hara?
Yes.
Alex Rogiers?
Yes.
Annette Price?
Yes.
Dawn Brockman?
Yes.
Tori Collier?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Let's see, Spanish Language Academy Overview by Janet Gorton and Ann Rosales.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to share an overview regarding the new Spanish Language Academy. I wanted to start with this quote that you see on the screen: "The direction in which education starts a man will determine his future life." Plato knew what he was talking about. And just a little story about me: when I was in third grade, my family lived in Vienna, Austria. My dad was on sabbatical, and I attended a German-speaking school and spoke zero German. Little did I know as a 10-year-old that seed that was planted in that moment in my life would lead me to where I am today. So it truly, it's so true that all these things we do for our elementary students are really critical. We do not know what seeds will grow over the course of their lifetime, and I think world languages is really an important seed. So we're really excited about this. Norman Public Schools were committed in this district to offering innovative opportunities for students to learn and achieve their full potential at all grade levels. Over the years, the district has developed programs like Dimensions Academy, Aviation Academy, as well as implemented learning environments such as the STEAM rooms that are going in at our elementary sites. The Spanish Language Academy aligns with the teaching and learning focus of the district's strategic plan, and in the current climate of educational choice for families, offering a variety of educational opportunities really diversifies our district and encourages families to not only enroll in Norman Public Schools, but to stay in Norman Public Schools. I was here from kindergarten till I graduated from Norman High in 1985. I've served this district for 20 years, and I think there's no better choice than public schools for families. So there are 3 primary program goals for the Spanish Language Academy. First and foremost, we want to support students so that they succeed academically at levels comparable to if they'd been in any other classroom. So that's priority 1. We want to develop communicative and academic proficiency in both Spanish and English through immersion teaching practices. And just to clarify what that is, in immersion teaching and learning, the target language, and in this case Spanish, is used as the vehicle to content instruction. So if any of you ever studied a language in high school or in college, you studied the language for the sake of the language. You learned other things on the side, but like when I taught French at Norman North, I wasn't teaching biology through French or Algebra 1 through French. I was teaching French for the sake of the love of French, So that's what's different about an immersion model. Students will be learning academic content areas through Spanish and also through English, because developing academic proficiency of both languages is extremely important. There was a researcher at Berkeley who said there's no such thing as a native speaker of academic vocabulary, and that is so true. We're always learning, including in our primary language, academic vocabulary. And you cannot study and learn a world language without fostering understanding and appreciation of the cultures in which they are spoken. So very, very strong program goals. The research on early learning for languages is really fascinating because, in fact, by creating multiple languages in the brain, you're actually growing your gray matter in your brain. And so that's why before the age of about 10 to 12, when students learn another language, it's stored in the same pocket as your first language. And then the older you get, so if you're in high school, you're in college, you're an adult and doing Duolingo, which is a fabulous platform, you're actually storing the new language in a different pocket of your brain. So it's a lot harder to make connections over time. But for the young kids, when we say they're truly sponges, they really are sponges. So it leads for the students as having increased language capacity. They're improving their listening, problem solving, and creative thinking skills. And I heard once that if you think of it, if you're a multilingual person, it's like you have a radio frequency going on in your brain. And so your brain is constantly trying to sort through, what language is this? So it can make sense of the meaning. So that's why it can really add to the cognitive growth for the brain. We have a mantra in world language education: start early, stay late. The longer you learn a language and stay in the language, the higher proficiency you're going to develop over time. Again, you cannot learn languages without creating greater awareness of the global community, which I think is really important as well. So my colleague
said, when we think about those program goals of that academic success and having that high standard for our students, we felt that it would be very important that when we look at the vetting process for the curriculum resources we put in our teachers' hands, that they also have that same standard of academic excellence. And so when we are fortunate that everything that we have adopted as a district for our elementary curriculum also comes in Spanish. And so we're able to utilize that same curriculum resource across all classrooms of the district. Whether they're delivering that content in English or Spanish, they're able to pull from those same resources, which not only allows us to make sure that we're having that same standard, but allows for that collaboration across a grade level within Truman Elementary and Truman Primary. So we're very excited about that. When we think about the focus, as Janet said, there will be that balance of content delivery in Spanish and in English. In pre-K through second grade, when they're learning those foundational literacy skills and really learning how to decode and how to read for the first time, a lot of that instruction will be given in English to help support that decoding process and that learning to read process. However, when we're talking about vocabulary and comprehension and all those pieces, we will be bringing in some of that Spanish vocabulary. As children progress in their learning, we'll start to see the time spent in those languages also increase and decrease. So we'll see that Spanish increase over time while the English instruction decreases over time. In 3rd to 5th grade, we'll have a very much equal balanced approach when thinking about the delivery of that content. How do we know they're learning? What's that next step? And so when we think about what are those checks and balances for student academic excellence, they will have those same benchmarks and that same success criteria that we use for all students. So they will participate in those grade level standard-based report card. We will be looking at those standards. However, we also, as our program goals stated, want to make sure that we're communicating with families. How is their Spanish proficiency also progressing? And so for each report card that they receive, they will also receive a progress report that tells them how their language is moving along as well. They'll continue to take the district benchmarks that are given in English, just as their peers do in other classroom settings, again, to make sure that we're meeting the mark of those standards mastery as they're going through those grade levels. They will also participate in all of our Strong Readers Act screeners as well as our math screeners to see, are there some skills that they may need more additional support to be successful? And so all of those same resources and process will be in place for them as well. And then of course, our 3rd through 5th grade students will also participate in our state testing, again, holding that standard for academic excellence for every student.
Thank you, Anne. So brief overview just about the program in general. The application process has been offered to students that will be entering pre-K through 5th grade. The program will be hosted at the Truman campuses, and we've had 2 pathways for students to apply. Pre-KK are really the entry-level grade levels that no experience or Spanish language proficiency is required for entrance. 1st through 5th grade, there's level 1 pathway. Students should be transferring from a Spanish language immersion program, which has really grown throughout the state. I know we were at a summit not too long ago, and in Tulsa, they said they had over 130 classrooms that were part of immersion programs. So it's something that is growing over time within Oklahoma as well. Level 2 pathway, an in-person screening to make sure they have enough language proficiency in Spanish, perhaps in English if they are being raised in a multilingual home. They could already have Spanish background at a level that supports them in meeting grade levels academic expectations. So that's really important. We always want to be setting students up to be successful in the classroom. In Norman Public Schools, we try to remove barriers to families for learning opportunities. So if transportation is something that is truly a barrier for a family in participating in this program, while we can't guarantee anything, it's something that we really will look at to see if we can do something to help them get over that hurdle. So the program timeline form was available starting March 26th, shortly after spring break, through this last Friday. This week we'll be working through the applications and giving parents a status notification and an update by Friday. And then as students are offered spaces, parents will be asked to complete the online enrollment process if they've not done so already by May 9th. We currently have staff postings up, one for a program site coordinator, another for classroom teachers, and we are just starting the interview process to work through that piece. And we will be really excited to have a grand opening in August to celebrate this wonderful creation and this wonderful new opportunity for our families and our students in August, around the back to school time when we're excited just about starting school in general. You know, always an exciting time of the year. So we have some maximum class sizes because while we want to offer the opportunity to as many families as we can, we also want to maintain a strong learning environment. So pre-K at 20, K first at 25, and 2nd through 5th at 26. If we have applicants that exceed, the number of applicants exceeds the available spaces, then we will do a random drawing just like pre-K does. And then we would create a wait list and all those things. The same thing if we have families who move into Norman Public Schools over the summer. I've actually had some phone calls already. That's something that then we would look at spaces, or can we add them to a wait list, et cetera, over time. Siblings not guaranteed a spot in the program, but we will certainly give them preference for district transfers because it would be very hard to get students at 7:50 in the morning to multiple sites. So we really want to help support families in just the transportation piece as well if the Trumans are not their home sites. And I'm excited about this piece. Panel. I know the Oklahoma Aviation Academy has an advisory panel, so we are going to do a similar thing. And Dawn Brockman has already agreed. I've known Dawn since Moore High School when we taught together, and she's agreed to be on the panel. I always appreciate her perspectives. And this is just a forum where we can gather multiple perspectives because in Norman, we certainly want to be our best, and to be and build our best, we have to have everybody at the table. So Darcy Pippins, who's teacher extraordinaire in Norman High School, she's going to be on the panel. I have OU professor from the College of Education who teaches the World Language Methodology class. She is going to be on the panel. And then Dr. Kathleen Skinner, who is the program manager for world languages at the State Department of Education. She is going to be on the panel. And all these people add just a fantastic lens from their seats. So whether we're looking at program development, which would include like how do we build a teacher pipeline, how do we find additional resources, even online. Sometimes there's so much in the menu, like at a restaurant, you don't know what to pick. We need people who have vetted them so that we can save time and really focus on what do we need to our students. Family engagement, always a priority in this school district. We want to make sure that families are not only within the program, but we want to make sure that this is cohesive with the Trumans as well. We want this to be a really strong community of learners. Community partnerships. My goodness, how fortunate are we to be in Norman where there's so much available within our community, and we always want to do our best to leverage people, businesses, et cetera, that can really help us grow and build and just make the program, again, strengthen it and make it the best it can be, both and to sustain it over time. So I think those partnerships are also important. Anyway, hopefully you can tell I'm really excited about this. I think it's a great thing that we're going to be offering students. And there's a lot of parent excitement too. There's been a lot of thank yous. We had a parent information meeting about a week ago, and there were parents who are just super excited about the opportunity for their students. So it makes, when they're excited, we're excited. So thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
Yes.
Ms. Price.
Can you tell us what's enrollment like so far?
We have around 100 applications currently. We are going to continue to gauge parent interest until May 1st. Because some parents may not hear about it. Some, after the board meeting, stuff always comes to light. So we certainly want to offer the opportunity to as many families as we can. We're going to go through the applications this week just to vet information. Sometimes parents can choose a grade level. For example, on the Google form, in the drop-down menu, you can click the wrong box. So we're going to vet all that so that by Friday we can notify parents kind of where we are currently. But we have about 100 applications with the highest interest at the early childhood levels, which, since that's the entry point kind of into schooling, it makes sense that that's where the highest interest is.
And what's our capacity?
It's based upon the class sizes, what the maximums are.
174.
Oh, did you figure it out? Okay, thanks. Thank you, Mr.
Okay, yeah, that kind of confused me too. So, like it says K through first grade, maximum of 25 students.
Each grade
that
level.
That doesn't mean that we're putting 25 students in like kindergartners and first grade together, right?
Correct. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's probably, it's just that is our max for those grade levels versus 26 at second, third, fourth, fifth. Yes, that's
okay.
Exactly. So I apologize.
So like fifth grade, it might be more difficult to get those kids in than the earlier grades.
Yes.
So is there a minimum that we have to have for like a fifth grade class to make?
We will certainly look at that because you're right. Just like, I speak for secondary education too, and your class sizes and all those things are really important when we're looking at hiring and supporting financially teachers. So we will certainly be looking at all those things.
And do you anticipate having a hard time finding bilingual teachers for these classes?
We have had some success already. And one of the things, you're right, it's such a unique skill set you're looking for because you're not only looking for the bilingualism, so you have native or near native proficiency in either language, honestly, but you're also looking for the early childhood and elementary certification because, like, I speak English, you would not want me teaching kindergarten, so just because you speak a language doesn't mean you should teach in that. what's developmentally appropriate for children, content standards, et cetera. So it's one of the reasons I'm really interested and excited about having this panel, because having the State Department on board, having the professor from OU from the methodology class, I think it's important that we really how do we build a pipeline over time, because we can have teachers who have the enthusiasm, maybe they have experience not in our public education system, but they have experience working with young children. They have the proficiency in both languages. Well, how do we work with them on getting them appropriate certification so that they can serve in this capacity? And I think what has happened in Oklahoma too is, why would you go into a field if there's not a job attached to it? So I think that there are individuals out there who have the bilingual skill, have the interest in education, did not go the elementary certification pathway, because what job would they get? It doesn't make sense, because world language education really starts at secondary. So I think it's kind of the chicken and the egg approach. So I think that by really trying to work with the State Department and OU and any other colleges who want to jump on board, to really look at how do we develop this, because there are programs, Tulsa area, Jinx, Oklahoma City, Western Heights, these programs are there, so there are job opportunities. So how do we work with these organizations to help make it happen? So I met with the OU professor just last week, and we had a grand time, brainstorming, all the potential of what we can do to really impact not just Norman, but just the state of Oklahoma in this area of education, so that we can encourage people to move forward and do this, et cetera. So it's going to be a work in progress, but it's nice to be on the front end of working towards those goals.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Well,
All right.
thank you once again for the opportunity to share. We
Appreciate it.
And I want to jump in, Ann and Janet, thank you so much, one, for the presentation, but the hours and hours you've spent in putting this together, and everybody else who has been a part of it. Don, thanks for jumping in and volunteering once again to help us guide this. And then anybody else who's listening that's a part of the advisory panel, and I will shout out there, just like the Aviation Academy, once you start the advisory panel, people always come up with other names, that other people that need to be on this group or work in this group. So I expect that advisory board to grow as this program grows. So really looking forward to it.
Thank you again. Appreciate your presentation. Ms. Nevels, can you come down and talk to us about our certified teachers, please?
Absolutely. Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Miliarino, the next two agenda items are annual agenda items that I bring to you. The first one, I ask for action to renew the continued employment of all of our certified teachers who are currently on a certified teaching contract and who have not been recommended for non-renewal or dismissal as of today, April 14th, 2025. So essentially, our employees that are on a continuing contract, your action will continue them on a continuing contract for the next school year.
I motion to approve the renewal of contracts and continued employment of all certified teachers currently on a certified teacher contract, excluding those who have been recommended for non-renewal or dismissal.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Ms. Sasser?
Dirk O'Hara.
Yes.
Alex Regiers.
Yes.
Annette Price.
Yes.
Dawn Brockman.
Yes.
Tori Collier.
Yes.
And item E, the exact same action, only this one relates to our support staff, the renewal of our continued employment of all support staff currently on a support employee contract who have not been recommended for non-renewal or dismissal as of today, April 14th.
I motion to approve the renewal of contracts and continued employment of all support staff currently on support employee contract, excluding those who have been recommended for non-renewal or dismissal.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Ms. Sasser?
Dirk O'Hara.
Yes.
Alex Regiers.
Yes.
Annette Price.
Yes.
Dawn Brockman.
Yes.
Tori Collier.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. And on behalf of the board, thank you to all of the people we just approved their contracts on. We all appreciate you very, very much and love what you do for all of our students, all of our parents, our community. So thank you, thank you. Let's see, Tyler Jones, can you come down and talk to us about meal price?
Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Millerino, thank you for allowing me to come up tonight. Tonight, I'm going to be bringing 2 items to you. I'm going to just stand up and kind of do them all. I'll do the first part, and then we'll vote the second part. So the first part is an increase in our lunch prices. This is something we do every year. Where we are required to try to meet the average difference between our reimbursements for our free lunch and then our reimbursement for our paid lunch. This is with the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act. So we're required to make progress in trying to achieve that dollar, which you'll see is $4.01. They do luckily allow us to increase that by a minimum increase of 10 cents. And to keep, trying to keep meal prices low as we always try to feed as many kids as we possibly can, we're going to recommend just a 10-cent increase for this year to stay in compliance. Is there any questions about that one?
I make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 proposed increase in meal prices as presented.
Second.
Any questions?
So Tyler, can you explain to people how this is the minimum? We can move it up.
Yeah. So the 10 cent is the very bare minimum that we can possibly do, and that's what we always do each year. We would have the ability to move it up if we wanted to move it to the $4.01, but we like to try to feed as many kids and try to make it as easy as for families as possible. So that's why we're only increasing it by the bare minimum.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Sasser?
Dirk O'Hara.
Yes.
Alex Regiers.
Yes.
Annette Price.
Yes.
Dawn Brockman.
Yes.
Tori Collier.
Yes.
Amended budget, please.
Yes. Okay, so I'm bringing a budget amendment to you guys tonight. We have finished our third quarter, moving to the fourth quarter. This is the point in the year where I'm able to do a better analysis of kind of where we're at and have some data to look at my projections and everything that I had started from our last budget update in January. So a couple items. One thing I'll note out on this first slide here is we'll just kind of talk about the fund balances as a percentage of revenues. So that's our main KPI that we look at. We're at a 6.9% for general fund balance. We were at a higher number. I have it later in my slide. This point in the year, we always have a lot of open POs. So we always have a lot of departments that need to keep some open POs going. So they may not necessarily need all of that PO for that vendor. However, we like to keep those open just in case something pops up and they have an emergency or they have something that they're going to need to purchase quickly. So because of that, this is kind of the crunch time this third quarter where we still have a lot of open POs. So you'll see that fund balance drop a little bit at this point. I do anticipate that we will be bringing in a lot more fund balance as those POs close, as we kind of in the school year. We typically do each year. So I'm not too concerned about the small dip in the general fund balance percentages. I anticipate those will go up over the next quarter. Just a couple highlights in the general fund. School land earnings and motor vehicle collections are up around the state. So, and we're experiencing the same increases in locally. So I went ahead and increased those budgets, $100,000 on the school land, $200,000 for motor vehicle. The next big item that you'll see on there is we have started construction on the OAA. We're also starting to prepare to receive our first rounds of the funding from the federal ARPA dollars. And so because of that, I've increased the revenues by approximately $20 million. I've also increased our expenditure appropriation request, basically another approximately $20 million. This is just gearing us up to be able to ready to issue POs and keep the train going on that. So we're really excited about that. Another thing is Apple device resale program. So we were able to sell all of our old Apple devices as we refit our new ones. And so I thought that's kind of a neat, $480,000 that we can bring back into the general fund to use for operations to help kids. So that's great. And then there's some expense adjustments. National Board Certified Teachers, we were paying all those out. Some salary and benefit projections for some items that are more variable in nature. So those kind of get adjusted at the at this last quarter once we have a better idea. And then just additional purchase orders. I went ahead and pointed out central services here as an example of why we need those extra POs out there. So in case there's a flood or whatever, then they need to go out and start spending to correct that issue. We want them to have the POs that they need. Also, there was an ad valorem adjustment. I'm comfortable. We usually budget really conservatively, about 97% of our total levy. We are collecting right on schedule. I always expect about a 98%. Our historical data proves that 98% is very likely. So I feel comfortable in that, and we will. I went ahead and increase that revenue line item by 1%. So 1% on that large of a number will be about $490,000 to the general fund, an increase in expected revenue. And then also that will also affect the building and the sinking funds, the other two funds that receive ad valorem taxes. So building fund $70,000, sinking fund $360,000. I'm happy to say that my projections on our CEP, we've had half the year data back. I've been able to review that and look at it, and our federal revenues in that area are up. They were up about $250,000 for the first half, so I've doubled that to about $500,000. So we're real happy about the success of that program. Another thing I wanted to just mention briefly is our carryover spend down. So we're only allowed to carry over 3 months of operating expense in the Child Nutrition Fund. And we are working to spend that down. And the way we spend that down is we reinvest back into that program. So the Child Nutrition Funds are restricted to that program, and that's all we can spend it on. So we're doing some renovations in some kitchens. We're getting some new refrigerators and equipment and that kind of thing, just reinvesting back into the program to improve it. So with that, I would just take any questions on my budget amendments.
I make a motion to approve the 2024-2025 amended budget as presented.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Ms. Price.
Okay, Tyler, I'm going to ask you to look in your crystal ball. And we read in the news about tariffs that are coming. How will those, do you think, impact the district? Should we be investing in certain products, do you think, now to stay ahead of that? Like, how are we anticipating maybe keeping up with costs that might be rising?
Yeah, so as far as the very specifics of how tariffs are going to impact, our costs or, inflation as a whole across the country, what goods and services will be affected by that? That is a very difficult question. That's probably better left to an economist. But I will tell you that in my projections and as I plan for the future, I have been looking at inflation rates and what we think they're going to do. So, I'm kind of anticipating just internally, 4 to 6% inflation, right? And that's just based off kind of what I'm reading and what I'm seeing, but they're all over the place, right? So some say 2, so, as we normally see about 2% inflation, some say, 6, 8, it's just hard to tell right now. I really wish I had a great answer for you. I will say that I'm just being really, really conservative in our budgeting and making sure that I'm underestimating our revenues, overestimating our expenditures, and I'm also including an inflation estimate into our long-term projections.
And Annette, can I jump in there? Great question, because we are very consumable heavy in a district like this. The beauty of some of our contracts with Sodexo and others, that responsibility lies on them within our contracts, so we lean into them. But as Tyler said, we're in the middle of the budgeting and trying to be as conservative as we possibly can without cutting services. So his 4 to 6 to 10% kind of in different areas is something we are looking at. The other great thing is Tyler's a part of a very strong consortium group of CFOs around the state, and they're talking constantly of what's going to come. The biggest challenge is, I'm going to say, what does our funding look like for next year with the state? And, we've been assured that we're going to receive our FBA allowances, but everything else will be, for the most part, a flat budget, which is concerning because a flat budget is not a flat budget with all these different pieces. So that's the big piece is, working with our legislators, trying to let them know the ripple effects of seemingly innocent decisions and laws, that how that truly affects us day in and day out. So a lot of moving pieces, but trying to stay on top of that, and I appreciate you asking that question.
Also, Tyler, I want to give you a shout out for all the work that you've been doing on the CEP program, which is the community eligibility provision from the USDA. Norman Public Schools is benefiting from federal dollars on that to provide absolutely free breakfast and free lunch at 10 of our sites this year. This was our pilot year. And Tyler shared with me that in the first semester, we supplied an additional 50,000 meals that we did not the year before. I had an opportunity to talk to a mom who has 4 kids at one of those schools, and I was telling her about the program, and she's like, that's why I haven't had to make lunch for all 4 of my kids all year. I mean that's gold just in the time. And then you also have to consider, maybe not every family has the resources. And so it's doubly beneficial when a kid goes to school, he or she gets to learn, and then they also get fed. Like it's a win-win. So I hope that we can continue to work on expanding that program maybe next year, because I think it's just so beneficial for our families. So thank you.
Thank you.
Questions, comments? I noticed in the POs this time we had a lot of device purchases, which is this time of year we typically do that. There were iPads, there were all MacBooks. I would, Annette brings this up, I would like for us to look at the timing of that to see, because I know a lot of those are bonds and we can time that differently if we want to, but if the tariffs do end up being on those devices, they could go up drastically. I know they've been removed, but we at least need to have a plan to maybe purchase ahead for next year if it does get implemented permanently on those devices or those components of those devices.
Yes, that is a very, very, very good point. And I know our IT department does a very good job of, having a refit schedule and looking at what we're going to do. So I think, getting with them and seeing what we can push forward, in bonds and all that is definitely worth looking at.
Thank you. Ms. Sasser?
Dirk O'Hara.
Yes.
Alex Rogiers.
Yes.
Annette Price.
Yes.
Dawn Brockman.
Yes.
Tori Collier.
Yes.
Thank you, Tyler.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Item 7H is some new policies that Ms. Long's going to talk to us about.
President O'Hara, members of the board, Dr. Migliorino, I have 3 policies to present for your consideration this evening. We have these on the agenda as a group. With your permission, I'll go through each of the policies, of course, take any questions that you might have. And then when we get through with all 3 policies, it's within your discretion to vote on them individually or to vote on them with one vote as a group of policies that would be approved or otherwise amended. The first policy I have is the flags policy, and you will see that it has a new number. It'll be 5012. It's new as a policy, but what you see here has been the practice of the district for a long time. So this is a policy where I can say there's not much that is new. What is new is we are putting this in board policy. The 2 exceptions to it being pretty standard operating procedure is we have added the opportunity, not the requirement, but the opportunity on appropriate occasions to fly a City of Norman flag. And also, when the policy committee was looking at this, the policy committee wanted to make sure that there was not confusion about no other flags can be flown and a classroom situation where related to the curriculum of the classroom, a flag might be used, displayed in that classroom. And so the curriculum committee, or the policy committee, had suggested that language be added to the policy to allow the building or site administrator to approve for classroom-related purposes the flying of a flag. And so that was added as a result of that. Are there any questions regarding the flag policy?
I have a question. Is a flag different than a poster or something else adhered to the wall?
Yes, flag would be like the American flag or state of Oklahoma flag, city of Norman flag, U.S. military flags, but this policy would not apply to stickers, posters, or other things of that type.
I have a question. It seems to use specific language as flying the flag, not hanging a flag. Do you see a difference there?
I do. I think a more creative mind could probably find a big difference. What I would say is the purpose of this policy is to ensure that outside our buildings, every day of the school week, that the United States flag is flown and the flag of Oklahoma is flown. So whether we call that flags that are hung outside on a flagpole or flying outside on a flagpole may make in that context little difference. But that's the whole focus of this. What is flown outside our school buildings?
However, you mentioned inside a classroom, so I have to ask the question, does this apply to pride flags that might be placed in a classroom?
I think it would be. It would say no flags flying other than these particular flags or one approved for a curriculum purpose. So the question would be, if a pride flag is flown in a classroom, is it being flown for a limited amount of time for a curricular-related purpose? If it is, one could argue it's a flag, it's being flown in the classroom, and it's for a distinct purpose. But it would, under this policy, would have to relate to a curriculum-related reason.
So, following up on that, if someone were to fly a University of Oklahoma flag in their classroom, that would no longer be.
Would not, if it's not related to the curriculum, and I understand the point of your question because it likely wouldn't be related if it's to show affinity, a flag flying in a classroom, affinity for a personal choice or a habit or something that a person individually wishes to honor, that would not be permitted under this policy if it's a flag.
Why did they choose flying, and why did you say that the focus was outside flying of a flag? And you were saying that this has to do with hanging a flag in a classroom.
The underlying law speaks to the flying of a flag, so it doesn't address hanging a flag, and candidly, it doesn't address flags in a classroom, but it does say no other flags to be flown. So we get to your question about, well, what if it's hanging? Well, a hanging or a flying, for me as an attorney, that would be a close question, and I would likely say, I don't think you can fly that flag in a classroom, but the curriculum-related issue, I think, is the distinction that the committee was wanting to make, not driven by the law. The other parts of this policy are driven by the Oklahoma statutes, not even accreditation rules, as you'll see in the other policies. So I guess what I would say in summary is when the legislature was addressing this and passed the law, they really were not looking at other types of flags, either those related to football teams or those related to personal identity subjects, and frankly, didn't really have in their mind those that might be related to a classroom situation. But when the policy committee started looking at it, they said, well, what if we have a Spanish classroom, and would it be inappropriate to have that flag displayed in a Spanish classroom? Wouldn't that be an exception to this because the law speaks to the flying of flags and is particular as to where the flag is flown. The law itself speaks to flying the flag outside the buildings every school day, and if it cannot be flown outside the school building, that it would be displayed at the front of the school, inside the school in inclement weather. So these other issues are very interesting issues to think about, but they were not what the law that resulted in this policy focused on.
What's the OSSBA's attorney's position on this? Have they spoken to the issue of things wall art versus flying?
I heard them talk about the issues that we've talked about here. This policy that you see, though, is with the exception of the parts that were added, the City of Norman flag and the flying in a classroom, not the flying in the classroom, display in a classroom, that is the OSSBA policy. Their policies come through their legal group, so I would think that this is their position, but I've not heard them speak to other flags that are flown for reasons other than curriculum-related reasons. I would
argue, yeah, I would argue that there's a difference between flying something and wall art, but I think that that's up for interpretation. So,
well, and when you speak to wall art, I don't disagree with you. I guess I might say there may be certain types of wall art that you might not be able to put in a classroom, and certain types that would be back to Member Whittier's area, the flag of OU, for example. You know, those things, I don't know that most people, if it's just a display, I don't know that that's going to really get into what this is about.
Are we taking a vote?
Politically sensitive issue when you get into some of this, but that's not what this went to.
Will we be taking a vote on each of these individually?
We certainly can, yes.
Okay. Let me finish. I think that's wise. I think you're getting enough discussion here that we're not ready to pass policy 5012, and that it may need to go back to the committee to look at this. Does it need to be passed by a certain date? Are we within the law?
We have a deadline. The reason we put it on rather than for information tonight is because we have an obligation to be able to show our RAO that we have passed a flag policy. There is a part of this policy, and we have to do that tonight. And so if we don't pass it, then we will fail in that obligation to have that board policy done tonight because it can't wait until May. What the board could do, however, is take that part of the policy that we know is law, which is not the concluding sentence of the policy, pass that, but amend this policy to remove that part out. Then it would go back to the policy committee with hopefully board comments saying, here's what we would like to see, something that addresses wall art, something that addresses hanging versus flying, or any other issues that you wish to be addressed.
Hang on just a second, Ms. Long. Are you prepared to make that amendment? You take enough notes that you can either hand that to Alex or know what to amend in the policy. Is it the whole last paragraph, or is it just the last sentence of the last paragraph?
It begins, in the event other flags are flown, the remainder of that.
Yeah, the second sentence of the third paragraph.
The only part, that would remain in it is that first sentence, the ending with the approval of the administration.
Got it. Superintendent Mayorino.
Yeah, so first of all, I appreciate the discussion and definitely want to make this something you're comfortable with. Board Member Brockman, in OSSBA's policy, just so you know what it says, what their sample is, no other flag shall be flown on school property at any time. The assurance I want to give the board, no matter the decision this evening, is we already have a regulation in place and practices in place that we have no intent of changing. We have a strong relationship with the Human Rights Commission, and a decade ago we made agreements with them to have different things flown. So no matter what decision is made this evening, Our intent is not to change that. This is simply for accreditation purposes to have a policy in place, but would love to make any changes or suggestions.
I've sent those to Alex, and I appreciate your comments, but I don't think that it's worked out that way at schools. And so I want to protect teachers' rights to put these things up in their classrooms.
I respect that. The agreement is the sticker in the window. So yeah, beyond that, it is not consistent. I will agree with you.
And along those lines, let's pass the policy that we're required to pass tonight. Let's not pass anything that is still under conversation. And then that way, no matter what agreements we have, they can go into the policy for all of us to read and understand. Is that fair?
And while this is on everybody's mind, rather than my going through these other two policies, why don't we go ahead and have action on this one now? Here's what what a motion might look like. It would be first a motion to amend the proposed flag policy by deleting everything in the last paragraph except for the first sentence. So you would have a motion on the amendment first. Oh, I forget.
Do we have a
I've got
motion to amend the
parliamentarian
policy?
who knows this.
I'm making a motion to amend the policy to remove all of the last paragraph except the first sentence. The policy 5012.
Proposed policy 5012.
Proposed policy
yes.
5012.
Second.
Any other discussion or suggestions on that? Ms. Hesser?
Dirk O'Hara?
Yes.
Alex Rogiers?
Yes.
Annette Price?
Yes.
Dawn Brockman?
Yes.
Tori Collier?
Yes.
And then I would like to have a motion on the policy as amended.
I make a motion to approve proposed policy 5012 as amended.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Ms. Hesser?
Dirk O'Hara?
Yes.
Alex Rogiers?
Yes.
Annette Price?
Yes.
Dawn Brockman?
Yes.
Tori Collier?
Yes.
And then for the issues you'd like to be addressed, specific situations, the things that we've talked about tonight and other thoughts that you might have, you're welcome to send those to me. Stephanie Williams heads the policy committee. Feel free to share those with her. And we will come back to you with hopefully something that meets some of the concerns that you've been expressing. The next policy we have, yes. Oh, no, that's fine. The next policy we have is observation of a minute of silence. The legislature had acted requiring approximately a minute of silence. And for many school districts, that was a change because they had language talking in terms of a moment of silence, which could be used for prayer or for meditation, just a silent time. Last year, accreditation standards passed the legislature. Those accreditation standards, of course, come from the State Department of Education, State Board of Education. Ultimately, they are approved by the legislature and or the governor, dependent upon the process. And those accreditation standards added what you see as the last two paragraphs. So this is probably not new to you because it has been in a regulation for this school year. But what is new is now we are moving it into board policy. The two parts that were new once, because for some time there was the minute of silence that was provided, the two parts of the OSDE rule that are in the regs but have been now added to policy is this daily minute of silence, which begins with a loudspeaker announcement each school morning. And OSDE has also required that we have in the policy a complaint procedure so that if a parent, presumably a student or a staff member, believes that the required policy is not being followed, they have a mechanism to complain and have that complaint heard. So are there any questions regarding the observation of a minute of silence?
I make a motion to approve proposed policy 5010, observation of a minute of silence.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? I have a question. So does this mean every school needs to time it? I mean, they need to know it is so it's saying a minute, so it has to be literally 60 seconds?
Even in the law, it's an approximate minute. So not bad to look at a clock, but they pretty much, I think, are going to know if they've gone about the minute. So I don't think anybody's going to walk in and hold a time clock, but for those who are like me, you'd probably get out that watch and time it.
I'm uncertain as to why this is necessary. I mean, I appreciate you bringing it to us because you have to. I'm just asking. This is something that we already do, correct? And the only thing that's new is a complaint procedure, which I'm assuming is the same complaint procedure a family would have.
Well,
with
now
anything
we're
else?
required to have a policy regarding this, so that would be new. Before we had it in the regulation, and then it is the accreditation procedures required the complaint policy and required that there be the daily minute of silence and that there be an announcement that this is for reflection. In other words, there's the announcement that is how a student may use it.
And we're required to say minute and not moment.
Yeah, approximate minute of silence. I mean,
So
that's what's interesting.
that's another change we're required to make.
An approximate minute of silence.
So a situation just came to mind. Many new teachers struggle with classroom management, and I know that some teachers struggle to have a minute of silence when it's happening over the intercom. Would teachers be held accountable for not quite having the classroom management skills yet to make sure that every student is absolutely silent? Like, what if a child tells their parent, "Yeah, in my first hour, it's always really loud during the moment of silence," and that parent tries to complain about that? Would that teacher be reprimanded under this policy?
Well, the facts of situations may, and so if this is, I'll take your example, it's a new teacher, there's a complaint, administration looks at it, and that teacher needs some help in classroom management and maybe help in that classroom, then it's highly unlikely that they are going to be disciplined. It is likely that they are going to be assisted in those classroom skills, in maintaining order. But I'm not seeing this as a mechanism to isolate teachers for purposes of punitive reasons. And frankly, I'm not expecting that we're going to see a lot of complaints on this. In Norman, this has already been happening. We're just now seeing this procedure put on paper.
Ms. Sasser?
Dirk O'Hara,
Yes.
Alex Regiers,
Yes.
Annette Price,
Yes.
Dawn Brockman,
Yes.
Tori Collier,
Yes.
Policy 5013, please.
Thank you. Voluntary private prayer policy, and this also is a new policy. This is also one that we had in a reg, but now we are moving it into policy. This voluntary private prayer comes about as a result of state law, and that's why we try to put on all of these policies where the legal references are. There's also an accreditation standard that went into effect actually at the beginning of this school year, requiring this. And then we have the special instance, which is more irregular, we have a United States Supreme Court that didn't require that this be in policy, but required that that we recognize that there is permissible voluntary prayer for students, also for our employees, keeping in mind that that doesn't mean that it would be an interruption of school time. It's not to be during instructional time. It's not to be on an employee's time. So what you see here is a requirement that it be in policy. That's a change for us because we're always going to abide by what the state of Oklahoma tells us is the law and by United States Supreme Court opinion. And this sets out the procedure for how this will be applied in the district. But it is a new policy, and most people probably are not familiar with it.
I make a motion to approve proposed policy 5013, voluntary private prayer.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Ms. Brockman?
Karen, was this allowed before the Supreme Court case? I mean, people are allowed to pray on their own time.
Right, on their own time is the key, and that was recognized in the Supreme Court case. It really wasn't an issue prior to the Bremerton case. The Bremerton case presented just a new pinch of difference to it, and that was an employee who is on their own time, but they're in a very public arena right after a football game, right on the edge of the field, and they're praying. And so you had the school saying, hey, that's a violation because the employee is still on their own time. But the Supreme Court ultimately said, while he was certainly at a school event still, that was his private time because it was at a time when, although he was at school and at the game, his duties were finished. And so that put this out for the Oklahoma State Legislature to say, we saw what that opinion said, so we'd like to make sure that the law of Oklahoma reflects and protects that right to privately pray, even if you're at a school. I think that's the seminal difference. You're at a school, but you're on your own time, or a student is on their own time, not interrupting math class because they've decided to pray.
Thank you.
Ms. Rice?
Do we have a policy on public prayer, and is this allowed in our district?
Public prayer, I always say, President O'Hara, only a lawyer would get into these areas. They will never invite me back again. Dependent upon how you define prayer, public prayer is permissible, but when you look at public prayer in a school, then you probably are going to get into some arguments on what is permissible and what is impermissible. As to your question, of course, do we have a policy on public prayer? We do not.
And I will say, per our conversations when we reviewed these, we will be looking at a potential second policy per a couple of board members' request.
Okay, yes, I appreciate that, just to have definitions and boundaries.
Ms. Collier?
Yeah, I was going to ask for an example of kind of what it would look like to have voluntary prayer during an athletic event or graduation ceremony.
I'll go back to the Bremerton case because that's exactly what it looks like. Football coach out on the edge of the field, the game is over. All of the athletes have gone back toward the locker rooms, and yet there may still be people in the stands. There may be people coming down to greet players or others, and you have somebody who is a school employee who's standing out on the edge of the field and maybe silently, but people who know him or her well know that they're engaging in prayer. That would be a private prayer as distinguished from a public prayer, but it would be permissible. A student, they have not started their class yet. They're in the classroom. They bow their head. They're not announcing that they are engaging in prayer, but those around them who know them think that they are likely praying. That would be a private prayer example that a student might engage in.
So this won't impact, like, I'm at lunch, I want to pray over my food, I get a snack, I want to pray over my...
It would be something, Tori, along the lines of, I'm a coach and I expect my players to come pray with me.
That would not be permitted.
Correct.
Yeah, that would not be permitted.
That would be an example of what we would not be doing. And so you're using your authority, you're using your position to push something on to students who are attending school. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay.
Now, your example of a student who sits down at lunch and they are praying over their lunch or at the beginning of their school day, that would be a voluntary private prayer as well.
Ms. Sasser?
Dirk O'Hara,
Yes.
Alex Regiers,
Yes.
Annette Price,
Yes.
Dawn Brockman,
Yes.
Tori Collier.
Yes.
Before we get to item 8, I want to make sure that we know that item 7A will not be addressed tonight. It may or may not be on the next agenda of the school board. Do we have any new business?
No.
Administrative staff reports.
I do, and I want to start off with, I truly appreciate this conversation. I think anybody watching and listening should appreciate it as well, and do know that we'll be taking a look at those things that were discussed, but also items from our board reviews as well. So that, but with that said, you've come to the podium.
The click for you.
Click for me. Well, I could click. Do have a few updates. It's awkward.
It's awkward for you. It's awkward for me.
So first, I do want to give another shout out to our Truman Primary kiddos for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. There are some pictures already floating around out there, and they are saying, don't look at the adults behind them, look at the kids. They are really, really cute. So anyway, for those kiddos that did that, really appreciate it, and I think it's a great addition to our board meetings. It kind of puts in perspective why we do what we do every day. So with that, also, Tori, welcome. Only, what would that be, 60 more? A formal, generally scheduled regular board meetings. So look forward to working with you. And I think that the new tradition we've started because of your question, the reception prior to this, fantastic things. So moving forward, we'll continue to do that. So great stuff. Great stuff. So with that, jump into a couple of celebrations. I think all of our board members were at the Celebration of Excellence. Dr. Brian Fournette, 2025 Teacher of the Year, Norman High School. Congratulations. Oh, there's some pictures there. So excited, had the opportunity to briefly talk to him after the celebration, but the coolest thing was when I went over to him with his family and just kind of catching his breath. And, a thing that resonated with me, and I shared this with him, is, his kiddos are going to, his kids are going to be able to remember this moment and know that forever their dad was the Teacher of the Year for an incredible district. And how cool is that? Congratulations to our Rookie Teacher of the Year, sponsored by Bank First, as we all know, Molly McAmis from Norman North. Our Support Employee of the Year from Transportation Services, Kathy Bronner. Special Education Teacher of the Year, Stephanie Peters from Jackson Elementary. Our Principal of the Year, first ever time that we've recognized that, Dr. Catherine Miller from Jefferson. And our Public Ambassador Award went to the Norman Public School Foundation, and I think we all know the impact they make on our classrooms and our teachers every single year. So that All-City, we've had several All-City events over the past several weeks, you know, fifth grade chorus, choir, dance, orchestra, band. I've made about 66% of them. There are so many of the different things going on, but I love looking at the pictures and little videos people send me. So great stuff, kids doing incredible things, and just as importantly, our teachers getting out and celebrating with them and getting them to this point. And then we have a couple of All-City things left. We have our All-City Art Show and our All-City Speech and Debate contests coming up. If you need something to do, great opportunities there. Also, recently we hosted our legislator breakfast with our Teacher Leadership Council at the end of March. Incredible turnout, great conversations, great questions. Most of the answers were great from the legislators. I just truly want to thank Kristen Erickson for moderating and the SEC group for really putting that together. It's something that is it's a point in time in the year that we get an opportunity to get our teachers in front of our elected officials and really ask them the questions they want to ask, not questions they feel maybe filtered through other means. So great stuff there. Tons of upcoming events between now and the end of the year. I know board members have been getting lists of those, but I just encourage everybody to get out and support our students and teachers if they have a chance. And I have no doubt that one of our board members will talk about NSBA, so I will leave that to you guys. And that's my report.
Thank you. Board of Education reports. Mr. Rozier?
Yes. All of us here attended the National School Board Association conference in Atlanta, and it was a fantastic experience, minus Nick losing his driver's license in in another city, and credit card. Really some fantastic sessions this year, and really what a great experience. Our new board member, Tori Collier, was able to come with us, and that was a really wonderful experience that doesn't usually happen. So really got to get to know her and learn together, and what a fantastic start to her school board term. I also wanted to say that I did go to the Celebration of Excellence on Friday, and it was absolutely stunning and fantastic. Dr. Fournette is an amazing teacher. I was on the staff development committee this year that selected the finalists for the Teacher of the Year. And some people may not know that Dr. Fournette is an immigrant from Canada, and his elementary education was all in French. And he teaches a section of students who are primarily English language learners, and he has had such amazing success with those students. He said that in one of his interviews that he gave to the committee that this was the first year that he had one of his ELL students come to him and say that she wanted to take AP biology, which was a personal, milestone for him, that she was able to express that she wanted to pursue the sciences because of the education that she had received in his classroom. And I just cannot think of anyone better. I mean, it was a really supremely amazing pool of teachers. It was very difficult to narrow it down. So thank you to all of the site teachers of the year as well. Fantastic educators in this district.
I want to welcome Ms. Collier to the board. So excited to learn from your experiences and your perspective. And we've had a little bit of time to talk. And she is just a huge advocate for kids and families. And I'm just like, yes, I would love to work with that. And the rest of us here, I think, feel the same way because we all have that passion and that desire. And I think it's worth recognizing that Tori is the first Black member of the Board of Education in Norman. And so that makes her a trailblazer on day one. And what an inspiration. I'd also like to thank Dr. Floyd for her service on the board for 2.5 years. And then also, it is School Library Month. So go check out a book, make friends with a librarian. They're all friendly. They're all so much fun.
I'd like to echo everyone else's sentiments. NSBA was amazing. Celebration of excellence, great. I can't think of a more deserving teacher to be Teacher of the Year. I want to also thank the district and through them our taxpayers who send all of the board members to be educated. I think it's very important for us to get continuing education so that we can be clear on our roles and that we don't violate the Open Meetings Act. So with that, I want to pass it on to our new board member.
Well, I just want to thank everyone for being so kind and welcoming to me, joining, a brand new board with, you all have been able to be together, and to welcome me with open arms was just really fantastic. And I was nervous, but I just felt, right like a part of you all. Being able to learn with you all at the conference was great. Learned a lot, and I just wanted to, thank you all for welcoming me. So I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Welcome aboard. We look forward to all your input, all your insight, your fresh view on everything. So thank you for being here and for running and for just putting yourself out there. It's hard. It's hard to run for office. It's hard to do what we do, and you did it, and you're here, and we appreciate you very much. In SBA, we all got to know each other, as they've said, just had a couple of really neat classes. One was a student-led voice of how we can really get kids, non-leadership kids, that are voices that we need to hear, that we don't hear from. And I've got some ideas there that I brought back. Went to several mental health classes that were really, really good this year. Since the taxpayers are paying for it, and as Don said, we very much appreciate it. If in the first 5 minutes they don't grab me, I go to the next class. I'm in and I'm out because I want to be able to learn and spend the best time that we can there. The number one thing that has hit me the last several years is when you sit through those classes is how many things that we are doing exceptionally well already. And when you could sit there and talk to districts from around the country that are larger, that are our size, and that are smaller, we are self-critical because we always want to be better, and that's a good thing. But at some point you sit back and you go, we are really good at a lot of things that we do, and that's because of our teachers and our educators and our admin. So thank you all for doing that. Sarah Seymour, wish she was here. Her and her team do an amazing job. That is a lot of work to put that event on for 600 people. Thank you all so much for what you do and how you do it. Kristen Erickson, thank you for the last year. You get your life back. Dr. Frenette, thank you for the upcoming year. Your life is now gone because you've got a lot of work to do, a lot of places to be, and Nick makes you run his meetings, and you have to do a lot of different things. So want to just encourage everyone, is All City Art this year at Sooner Mall? Is that where it's going to be, or is it? Yeah, I want to make sure that we know to go out there so that our public can really see. We have an amazing amount of artists within this district that you will think it's, should be in art galleries around. Go ahead.
It's moving, if not now, or soon, to the Cal.
So it is moving back to. Okay. I just make sure and go look at that art because we have an amazing amount of artists within the district. Check that out. Check the last of the All-City concerts out. There are multiple crosstown clash competitions this week. So whether you're going to go to root for High or North or both, please show up and support those students. And just want to thank Monroe Elementary for letting me watchdog today and high-five the kids. And, just like we saw them do the Pledge of Allegiance, if you ever are having a rough day, just spend a little time in one of our elementary schools because it will perk you up in many, many, many ways. And it'll also make you appreciate the chaos that our teachers deal with every day at all levels of school and how they are calm, cool, and collected and are leaders in every way. So any other comments?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Ms. Sasser.
Dirk O'Hara.
Yes.
Alex Regiers.
Yes.
Annette Price.
Yes.
Dawn Brockman.
Yes.
Tori Collier.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.